Good evening, I am Julie Dawson, and here's my presentation on inclusive leadership. For part one, we were to find articles and videos pertaining to inclusive leadership and diversity and including all people in our leadership. I found one article and 3 videos that I thought pertained to this subject very well and could not decide just between 2 of them, so I thought I'd share all 4. The first one is an article, Creating an Inclusive Environment by Rachel Ross. She wrote an article that did very well talking about how to create an environment at the workplace in which it was inclusive to all people despite gender, race, ethnicity, beliefs, values, ability, disability, etc. And she stated, in an inclusive environment, alternative perspectives lead to breakthrough thinking and high-performing teams. She also talked about it is developing a culture at which you work in, whatever your background, gender, or race, you feel pretty much at home and able to give your best effort. I truly believe when people are most comfortable, you will get the most out of them, whether it is developing ideas, making a product, or devising marketing skills. When they're comfortable with you and everyone around them, they will be at their highest performance. She also went on and talked about six competencies that an inclusive environment and inclusive leadership skills will have. And those were listening and observation, open mind and engaging, rapport building, collaborative and innovation, feedback exchange, and flexible leadership style. Finally, she summed up her article with how developing awareness and getting the leaders on the journey to an inclusive leadership environment. She says it starts with increasing awareness, moves into building understanding, and then gets leaders to the point where they are committed to trying something differently. That's when they start to develop their inclusive leadership skills. The last 3 are videos that I found on YouTube that talk about inclusive leadership in different ways. The first video that I will show you is inclusive leadership around the world. What's fun about this video is not only does it talk about inclusive leadership, it also makes it inclusive by having them still speak in their native language as opposed to listening to everyone speak English.
Un liderazgo que es inclusivo es el que permite que cada miembro brille y se sienta apoyado por todo el equipo. El liderazgo que es inclusivo le da fruto a la innovación, eficiencia y productividad.
Inclusive leadership is important because it helps you identify leaders in unusual places. They bring different perspectives and different solutions to the table.
Ausschluss führt zur Demotivation und sogar zu Verlust des wertvollen Angestellten. Das Gefühl, zu einer Mannschaft zu gehören, aber auch als Individuum anerkannt zu sein, schafft motivierte, produktive und innovative Teams. Leistungsfähige Führungskräfte haben verstanden, dass der Erfolg kollektiv ist.
I think inclusive leadership is the difference between a good leader and a great leader. It's about empowering your team, providing them accountability, creating the trust, and understanding them as individuals about their individual careers and how that contributes to the greater goal to the organisation.
好的领导者具有包容性，并且是谦卑的，也能勇于认错，并且接受不同的观点。他们相信支持并且属下亦是主要的责任心。
Inclusive leadership is important to me because it leads to more innovative teams and overall productivity.
Next we have a video that is Rosalind Torres. She works for the Boston Consulting Group. She advises CEOs, senior executives, and leadership boards on effective leadership, effective teams, organization design, and cultural change. I'm not going to have us watch the whole video, but there's one part when she talks about, she has 3 questions that each leader needs to ask themselves and figure out the answers to in order to determine what it takes to be a great leader. Her second question is, what is the diversity measure of your network? Which I feel pertains to our topic at hand, so let's watch to see what she has to say about it.
Second question is, what is the diversity measure of your personal and professional stakeholder network? Now, we hear often about good old boy networks, and they're certainly alive and well in many institutions. But to some extent, we all have a network of people that we're comfortable with. So this question is about your capacity to develop relationships with people that are very different than you. And those differences can be biological, physical, functional, political, cultural, socioeconomic. And yet, despite all these differences, they connect with you and they trust you enough to cooperate with you in achieving a shared goal. Great leaders understand that having a more diverse network is a source of pattern identification at greater levels and also of solutions, because you have people that are thinking differently than you are. Third question, are you courageous enough to abandon?
And then my last video, I'm not going to have us watch the whole thing. The speaker talks about how people are diverse and what makes them diverse, and how we're all the same, but yet while still having diversity amongst us. It's just a really good clip to take some time and watch when you have a chance. Part 2 were the connections between what we have researched and what we have learned and our book and what we live. And the 5 practices of exemplary leadership model the way. This is definitely giving people a reason to care, aligning our values with our voice and our actions. I'm a big believer in lead by example. In my classroom, I'm a special ed teacher. I work in a classroom in which it has severe to multiple disabilities, students who are challenged in a lot of ways, and I feel that if a job in my room is something that I don't particularly want to do, I'm not going to pass it off onto one of my peers just because I don't want to do it. I'm going to actually do the job and do the job well. So we have to learn, I've learned to be very flexible, to listen from my peers who have more experience with this type of population in the classroom, and try to model the way I care for new people coming in and for the way my students act. Inspire a shared vision. This is definitely creating a common goal based on shared hopes and dreams, a vision that provokes passion and excitement. Schools are a place with mission statements. These mission statements can be elaborated on by the school principal and made into a common shared goal that the school is going to achieve, and it could change each year. Once we meet one goal, let's move on to another. Let's make our building, our school, something special where the kids are excited to come and excited to learn. Challenge the process. Think outside the box. Find leaders in all corners. Take risks and always learning. As people in education, we are asked to continue to learn and expand our minds and our knowledge base. I feel that challenging the process makes us think outside the box when it comes to designing lesson plans and to differentiated instruction, aligning what we're teaching with state standards and Common Core. We need to be ready to prepare these students and make them into whole learners, not just learning academics, but learning beyond the academics. And so challenging the process, we do that every day by trying to make those connections between what we're teaching and what they'll see in life. Enable others to act. Be the first to trust, show concern and care, share knowledge, and promote ownership. I do this with my pairs all the time. I give them jobs, I let them be in charge of something, and I tell them to take it and run with it. Some of my pairs are excellent physical therapists and occupational therapist aides and do wonderful things with kids on teaching them to tie their shoes and ways to cut their food and, ask to use the restroom, to cross the street safely. The ladies I work with are amazing, and they do a great job of taking ownership in what they do and becoming proud of what they do, which leads into encourage the heart. Expect the best and give recognition. Celebrate victories. It is very common for us to celebrate victories every day in my classroom, especially with the children we teach. We are always looking for ways to improve ourselves, and we set expectations for our students, and I set expectations for my pairs. They work closely with these kids, and so I expect them to build a trusting and great relationship with them, while at the same time I set high expectations for my students. They are going to learn, they are going to be productive citizens within the school building, and so when you set those expectations and you provide them ways and learn to grow and to meet those expectations, it's just a wonderful feeling. A quote or a line from in our book that I feel that really touches on and encourages the heart. Believing in others is an extraordinary, powerful force in propelling performance. Just the ability to believe in someone, they really feel like they can do anything. It's a pretty amazing feeling. Finally, part 3 were the challenges. We have motivation. It can be tough to get people going and to keep them going. Status quo is not a good thing. Relationship between skill and performance. We can't expect people to do something that they don't know how to do. So we have to continually to promote learning and growth and building in our in our followers. Trust is a very hard thing to get, and if you lose it, it's even harder to get back. So we need to be the first to trust. We need to trust that they're going to do their job. We need to trust that they are going to make the right decisions and help us develop great ideas. Unclear goals. Going in, being wavery, not sure where you are taking the company or the school or the classroom can set up for mass confusion for everyone. Sit back and wait attitude. Leaders cannot sit back and just wait for things to happen. They need to be visionaries. They need to see things that are coming. They need to be ready to go that next step before that step comes. And the need for leaders to challenge. People want to be given responsibility and given drive and given something to work for. So we need leaders who challenge us to become better, to challenge us to think and provide for great opportunities to learn. Another quote that came from our book, and I will sum up what inclusive leadership should look like, would be the best leaders are the best learners on page 335 of our textbook. Leaders need to always be learning and always to stay on top of what's coming up and be ready for that next step before that next step comes. And so I really feel that sums up what an inclusive leader is best with that quote. Have a great evening.